People ask me what I did, what I said, what technique I used, what training I drew on. They want a method, something they can write down, teach at the Garrison Academy, put in a manual with a title and a set of bullet points. I tell them the same thing every time. I sat still, that's the whole story. I was 46 days into a solo survey run along the Kespar Ridge when the port thruster on my mapping craft threw a coupling, and I came down hard on the plateau's eastern shelf. The craft was done, split along the belly, fuel cells cracked, emergency beacon fried on impact. The garrison had posted 3 warning buoys on the plateau's approach vectors and lost 4 drones to territorial strikes in the previous 8 months, so they weren't exactly flooding the airspace with rescue flights. Kespar Plateau was Vrek ground, and everyone at Outpost Dreven knew what that meant. I didn't know it quite as well. I'd read the species report on the transit and heavy pack predators, amber-furred, black-muzzled, adults massing somewhere between 400 and 600 kilos when mature. Gold eyes. Territorial to a degree, the garrison classified as hostile. The report was 30 pages of incident logs and exactly 1 sentence about observed behavior when a subject remained calm and non-threatening. That sentence read, "Insufficient data." I had no sidearm. My flare kit had burned in the crash. I had a thermos of cold tea, 2 field rations, a hand torch, and a survey jacket with a torn left sleeve. I set up what shelter I could from the wreck's aft panel and I waited. The first Vrek came at dusk on the second night. I heard it before I saw it, the slow, deliberate placement of each foot, the kind of movement that isn't stealth so much as certainty, something that has never needed to hurry in its life. I was sitting with my back against the wreck's hull, hands in my lap, torch off. The moon, what passed for one on this rock, a dim orange disk, gave just enough light to see the outline when it crested the ridge. An adult female, I'd learn later, shoulders at my eye level when I was seated. She stopped about 12 meters out and looked at me for a very long time. I looked back. I didn't stand up. I didn't reach for anything. I didn't make a sound. I was, I'll admit, afraid, but fear and movement aren't the same thing, and I'd spent enough years in the survey service to know that most wild things are waiting for you to do something before they decide what to do with you. So I did nothing. She sat down. Not a crouch, not a threat display. She simply folded herself down onto her haunches the way an old dog settles in front of a fire and watched me with those gold eyes and breathed. I breathed too. We sat like that until the torch was no longer necessary and the sun came back. When it did, she was still there. And she wasn't alone. 2 more adults had come in during the night and stationed themselves at the ridge's edge, facing out, away from me, watching the tree line below. I want to be clear about what I understood in that moment. They were not guarding me. They didn't know me. I had not earned anything. I was simply the thing that had fallen into their ground and hadn't done any of the things that made something worth removing. I was, by every measure they had, harmless, and their response to harmless, I discovered, is not indifference. It's inclusion. The cubs found me on the 3rd morning. There were 3 of them, maybe 8 or 9 months old by the size, still in that stage where their paws were too large for their legs, and they moved with more confidence than coordination. They came down the slope in a loose tumble, stopped when they saw me, and then did what cubs apparently do when they've decided something is interesting. They walked straight over and sat on me. The largest one put its head on my thigh. The weight was extraordinary. I didn't move. I scratched behind its ear slowly, the way you'd move around anything young and unsure. It made a sound I can only describe as a rumble that started somewhere deep in its chest and came out warm. The other 2 pressed in from either side, and the smallest one, bolder than the rest, the way the small ones always are, put both enormous forepaws on my knee and regarded me at close range with eyes the color of raw honey. I sat in the middle of 3 Vrek cubs with my cold tea and my torn jacket, and I watched the plateau go gold in the morning light, and I thought, I am not going to be the thing that ruins this. I stayed 4 more days, before the garrison retrieval team found me. I heard the shuttle before I saw it, garrison standard approach, low and loud, which is not how you approach Vrek ground if you've read even the first page of the species report. The adults were on their feet before the craft cleared the ridge. By the time it set down on the shelf 100 meters out, there were 11 Vrek between me and the landing ramp, and 3 cubs behind me, pressed against my legs. The ramp came down. Commander Ostrev stepped out first. I recognized the rank insignia from 40 meters. He had a full retrieval team behind him, 8 soldiers in field kit, 2 of them carrying suppression lances, which told me everything about how thoroughly he had not read the species report. "Valdez," he called, "step clear of the animals, we're taking you out." I didn't move, not because I was refusing, because 11 Vrek were standing between us and not one of them had shifted an inch. "Commander," I called back, "I'd recommend lowering anything that looks like a weapon." He didn't. He took 2 steps forward and the largest adult, the female who had come on the first night, stepped into his path and made a sound that I felt in my back teeth. Ostrev stopped. The 2 soldiers with lances raised them. That is when the ridge filled up. I don't have a better way to describe it. The tree line below us and both lateral ridges simply became Vrek. They came in the way weather comes in, not fast, not charging, just present, and then more present, and then undeniable. Later I was told the garrison sensor array counted 63 individuals across 3 separate clans. The Plateau, which had felt enormous for 4 days, became very small. Ostrev's team didn't run, I'll give them that, but not one of them moved forward. The retrieval shuttle, I learned afterward, had its comms unit open on a garrison-wide channel when it landed. Protocol. So everything that happened on that shelf, Ostrev's order, the Vrek on the ridge, all of it, went out live to every outpost in the Dreven sector. 2 of those outposts had uplink capacity to the civilian relay, so it went to 4 inhabited systems. 47 million people watched Garrison Commander Ostrev stand on a plateau shelf and give orders that no living creature on that plateau paid any attention to whatsoever. Eventually he stepped back. The lances came down. He stood at the base of his ramp and looked at me across 100 meters of Vrek and said, with whatever composure he had left, "Valdez, are you coming?" I looked at the cubs behind me. The 3 of them had pressed tight against my legs. The largest adult had turned back from Ostrev's position and was watching me with those gold eyes. "Give me a minute," I said. I crouched down and put my hand flat on the large one's head. She lowered it the rest of the way and let it rest against my palm, and I stayed there for a moment, just long enough to feel the warmth of her, the slow steadiness of her breathing, the absolute absence of anything like fear or anger or performance. She was simply present. She had decided 4 days ago that I was not a problem, and she had not changed her mind since, and she was not going to change it now. I stood up. "Stay close," I said quietly to no one in particular. Every clan on that plateau held its position until I was aboard the shuttle, and the ramp was up. I never went back to Kespar. The garrison sealed the plateau 6 weeks later and posted permanent exclusion beacons on all 4 approach vectors. They reclassified the Vrek as a protected species under Sector Accord 7, which meant no suppression lances, no drone mapping, no forced entry retrieval operations. The species report was revised. The new version had considerably more than 1 sentence about calm. Commander Ostrev submitted his transfer request the same week. People still ask me what I did. I still tell them the same thing. I sat still. The rest was never mine to do.